think with Rice, he is very close to showing a varied enough skill set in addition to all the things he already does well to maybe being talked about as a legitimate wide receiver one.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
5 things to watch here, presented by Batch Elder Family Farms. I'm Kent Swanson here with Matthew Lane. We are kicking things off as you're going to hear from a lot of different people from across KC Sports Network, getting you ready for Chiefs Falcons on Sunday Night Football. Matthew Lane, how excited are you for week 3, my friend?
Listen, anytime the Chiefs are playing a primetime game, you have to get excited. You know, it's an island game. Everyone's watching. The Chiefs are 2-0, looking to go 3-0 in the biggest moments. That's what you love to see as a Chiefs fan, especially one that's out of state. It's really easy to watch primetime games, let me tell you.
Yeah, I'm just saying, all the fans that don't get to see them, as consistently, that's, for sure a thing there. So it's great that everybody's going to get to watch that game. I don't know if I've ever heard it called an island game, though. I was just thinking it's just out there on the beach or something like that. It'd be kind of fun as well.
It's more of a college football lingo, I think. Island games when they're by themselves. That's okay.
Gotcha. Well, you're gonna hear a lot of different things about this game as you're getting ready for this, and we'll start things off. Last week the Chiefs had a lot of problems covering a very good group of tight ends. There's 3 tight ends out there. Very diverse group of tight ends for the Cincinnati Bengals. This week, the challenge is players that are tight ends, don't get me wrong. There's one tight end, but there's also players that can win in very similar areas of the field to what a tight end can do, and some players that are going to challenge the Chiefs horizontally and in the flats. We're obviously talking about Kyle Pitts, the tight end, and Bijan Robinson, the running back for the Atlanta Falcons, 2 players that could give this Chiefs defense some fits, Matthew.
Absolutely. And that's been where the Chiefs defense has been the weakest so far this year, has been trying to defend tight ends, running backs, usually working outside the numbers, kind of not just out to the flats, but like we're talking getting out into some like curl areas, so a little bit farther upfield on some out routes and stuff. We've seen both teams the Chiefs have beaten, now the Ravens and the Bengals, have some success attacking them there. And so it's going to be another big game here against the Falcons where the Chiefs will have to find somebody that can step up, whether that's going to be one of their bigger box safeties, whether that's going to be one of their linebackers, a third or fourth corner stepping up and making a play. Somebody's going to kind of have to step up and not become a specific tight end stopper necessarily, but make some plays in those areas of the field so that teams can't drop back and immediately know they kind of have free yardage throwing those spots. I think that's been the biggest issue with the defense so far, is on any given play, if it's third down, if it's first down, whatever the situation is, teams have kind of had free access to yardage just throwing the ball underneath a cornerback trying to carry a wide receiver vertically. Nobody's getting out wide to handle these tight ends or running backs very well.
I believe the Chiefs have given up over 300 yards, passing yards, to running backs and tight ends through 2 weeks of the season. Like, it has just been an absurd amount of yardage they've been able to give up. We talked about like the tight end exploitation and 3 tight ends last week, but Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews, Justice Hill having a lot of success last 2 weeks ago against the Ravens. So it's been different kinds of ways that teams have been able to beat the Chiefs, with those types of players. Some explosive plays down and out of structure, obviously, with Isaiah Likely. But I think last week it was just like, hey, beating you out to the flat on out routes. And, that's, I think, something that's a little bit concerning. So they're going to have to do a good job of protecting those guys. They're going to have to, those linebackers, or find somebody, like you said, they're going to have to mix some things up. Or they could just get exposed. I do wonder, not that it's going to be, I don't know if the Falcons, are going to actively choose to just play a drop back game and throw to the tight ends. I think the way that the Bengals had some success, but I do think that they could get some stuff going out of their play action looks.
For sure. And that's been an area in the past that the Chiefs linebackers in particular have struggled with, is getting sucked up into play, the run action, and then not being able to get back into space, get underneath routes coming over the top. You especially kind of feel that without Willie Gay, just having his athleticism and stuff out there. Yeah, he was susceptible last year to being caught up in the same play action looks, but his athleticism let him make up for it. So that is something that's going to be important this year, because, you mentioned it, this Falcons run game here, it's good. I mean, Bijan Robinson has been an excellent runner of the football. So not only are the same players that are responsible for covering these tight ends and these running backs out in space, not only do they have to do the coverage aspect, but they also are going to be responsible for stopping Bijan Robinson, the runner. So it's a lot of pressure on the second level defenders, and that's not where the Chiefs have been strong yet. And part of that's been adjusting to life without L'Jarius Sneed. Another big part of it has been, hey, they've been focusing on Lamar Jackson, the scrambler, Jamar Chase, the wide receiver. That's extra attention to a singular specific player. This is going to be the first game where you maybe don't have to isolate a single player on the other side of the ball, and you could just play your quote-unquote defense. So we might see some changes, not necessarily because the Chiefs are altering anything in their scheme, but just because there's not the same level of threat of a Chase or a Lamar Jackson on the other side of the ball.
I will say, it's not just, the threat of Lamar, but Bijan, like we've talked about running backs getting chased out to the flat. Bijan's the type of back that can cross your face too. Like he's a guy that can actually do a lot more damage crossing up some of these guys in coverage too. And like, I don't know if the Chiefs really have a great answer in the linebacker level to try to cover it of Bijan Robinson. It's going to be interesting to see how they are able to slow those, those tight ends and those running backs down. One way potentially is pressuring Kirk Cousins, and our guy Matt Hamilton, 1/3 of Matter Days on KC Sports Network on the Lab, is here to tell you about pressuring Kirk.
And the thing I'm looking for in this one is Steve Spagnuolo bringing the pressure to Kirk Cousins. So far, the Chiefs defense, when they've blitzed, they have the 8th lowest passer rating allowed. When they just rush 4, they have the 3rd highest passer rating allowed in the league. There is a big difference when they bring pressure. And I think especially for this matchup, it's going to be important because Kirk Cousins, he had that great 2-minute drive to end the game and beat the Eagles on Monday Night Football, but he hasn't looked fully comfortable yet. And when you really dig into the tape, it's when there's pressure around it. And of course, you say, obviously, every quarterback, when you bring pressure, it's going to affect them, but some more than others. And when Kirk has had a clean pocket, he looks more like the Kirk Cousins that we've seen have success in this league. Coming off of that Achilles injury, when he's been under pressure this year, he looks especially uncomfortable. He looks like he isn't fully settled in yet. He looks like he's not fully ready to take some of those hits. The mobility isn't quite there. Not that he's ever been the most mobile guy, but he's been able to move in the pocket well in the past. He hasn't done that so far this year. So I'm looking for Spags to really dial this thing up, send a lot of different pressures Kirk's way, try to make him as uncomfortable as possible, try to move him off the spot, try to, obviously you want to get sacks as well, but even when they're not able to get home, I think it's going to put the secondary in a really advantageous position. And I think it's also going to, you put more people in the box, you get more aggressive, try to force them to check into some more passing plays, because I do think Bijan Robinson is the most dangerous weapon on this offense. And the more you can load up the box, the more people you can bring, the more you can try to take him away as well. So that's the key that I'm looking for to this game for the Chiefs. Bring that pressure, make Cousins uncomfortable. I'll send it back to you guys for more 5 things.
That is 1/3 of Matter Days. Matt Hamilton doing great work on Up and Adams, and also great work on Wednesdays on the KC Laboratory game preview episode with me and Maddie Lane. I switched over to Matt Swanson during those. It is Beef of the Week time, presented by Betch Elder Family Farms, and our guy Tucker D. Franklin and Matt Verderam are here to give you just that.
Let's get into it. Beef of the Week presented by Batch Elder Family Farms here. Look, they got some great stuff going on at batchelderfamilyfarms.com. You can go there and get their Labor Day special. You know what includes in that, Matt? You get 2 packages of 1-pound ground bison meat, and you can choose 2 of the following of bison hot dogs, bison regular brats, or bison spicy brats. I've had the spicy brats, incredible. Each brat and hot dog package is approximately 1 pound. Look, and if you order it and you live in the KC Metro, free shipping, free delivery. They will deliver it right to your door. So go check them out, batchelderfamilyfarms.com. And look, every week in the NFL, Matt, we always have some beef. There's always beef going on. This league is incredible. And this week, we got some beef with the team that, we like to cover, we like to cheer for, and we like to support. It's with that offensive line, man. We got some beef.
So I'm feeling like if the offensive line was a brat, like 80% of the brat is pretty tasty. It's pretty good.
Good brat, yeah.
20% of that brat's got to step it up. Can't be having a bad end of the brat. Can't have it. Can't do it. Ruins the whole brat. So we're going to need the left side of the brat here to get going a little bit. I understand that, young guy over there that's trying to get it done, but Trey Hendrickson can't go around like you're a road con 4 quarters. No. Can't do it. And this week is Matthew Judon. And if Matthew Judon's tearing around the corner, it's going to be one name Morris. We're going to replace that side of the brat. Yeah. It's going to happen. I want to see the Chiefs commit to the beef, and I want to see them run the ball with Carson Steele in this game. The Falcons' front seven is not good. It was annihilated against Philadelphia. The Chiefs need to follow suit, hand the ball to Crocky J back there, and get it done.
Old school football. That's what we want. We talked about that on that football show. We want old school football from Andy Reid and the Chiefs here. Matt, I don't know if you know this. We didn't talk about this on that football show. This is a 5-thing special. Do you know who the top 3 highest graded players were for the Kansas City Chiefs per PFF grades? Now, it's PFF grades, so grain of salt. Who do you think the top 3 offensive highest graded players were?
Offensive. Was Rashee Rice one of them?
It is not. No.
All right, so this is already a tragedy. All right. Creed Humphrey?
Creed Humphrey was number 1, yes.
Okay. I figured he'd be in there.
Yep.
Trey Smith?
He was number 3, yeah.
Was it Joe Tooney?
Joe Tooney was number 2, yeah.
Run the ball, for the love of God. Get behind that beautiful 1,000 pounds in the middle of the offensive line and run that mother. I don't, look, you're playing against a defense that has less resistance than most defenses.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to just pound the ball. Okay, don't be afraid. This is where, God rest his soul, the Chiefs could use a little Marty Schottenheimer. We are running power. We are running. I don't care. We're getting an eye, and we're just blasting forward. And for everyone who's like, we have Mahomes. You know whose job gets a hell of a lot easier when you're running for 6 yards a clip? Mahomes' job. Okay, that's whose job gets easier because then all of a sudden they got to cheat the safety down, and look at that. Here, extra beef for the week. It's Xavier Worthy against Mike Hughes. Remember Mike Hughes?
There we go.
I'm not beef with Mike Hughes, who just got beat on another touchdown to Gabe Davis. All right? Go at Mike Hughes. Go, if you can run the ball and you have Mike Hughes one-on-one with anyone alive, throw the ball at that side of the field. All right? It's not that complicated.
Got to trust the beef is what we're saying here. We know that
lean into the beef.
Only weird games. They'll talk about, flashy Patrick Mahomes stuff. They love that guy. The Lab, they love Patrick Mahomes. I get it. Patrick Mahomes is fun. That's sexy. We want the nitty gritty. We want the beef. And if you want the beef, go to BatchelderFamilyFarms.com. You can go get their great products like KC Buffalo Company. Every time I wear the KC Buffalo Company hat, they think I'm wearing a Bills hat. That's not true. I'm wearing the KC Buffalo Company hat, even though it does kind of look like a Bills hat, but you can take advantage of their Labor Day special. That's going all the way through September. You can get 2 1-pound packages of ground bison, as well as your choice of any 2 of the following bison hot dogs, spicy brats from bison or bison regular brats. They're really good. Also, if you go there, get their bison summer sausage. I know it's not technically summer anymore, but it is legitimately incredible. It's award-winning, good stuff there. From Batchelder Family Farms. Let's go ahead. We're establishing the beef is what we're saying here for our 5 things.
That's right.
Establishing the beef with Batchelder Family Farms. Let's send it back for more 5 things.
Oh, that was good stuff. Beef of the week with Tucker D. Franklin and Matt Verderan. We're going to take a break, and we will be back right after this.
Shop Chiefs tickets and more with no fees. Plus, save big with code KCSN at ticketsforless.com, the official ticket provider of KC Sports Network.
I love a great deal just as much as the next guy, but I'm not going to crawl through a bed of hot coals just to save a few bucks. It has to be easy. No hoops, no BS. So when Mint Mobile said it was easy to get wireless for $15 a month with the purchase of a 3-month plan, I called them on it. And you know what? It turns out it really is that easy to get wireless for $15 a month. The longest part of the process was the time I spent on hold waiting to break up with my old provider. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/KCSN5. That's mintmobile.com/KCSN, the number 5. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/KCSN5. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. Fellas, it's the best time of year. Football is back, and we're talking NFL Sundays, college football Saturdays, and that glorious grind of fantasy football lineups. This is where you can take your inner GM and bring it to life by setting that perfect fantasy roster, screaming at the TV, and making last-minute waiver moves that either make you a hero or the guy everyone makes fun of in the group chat. But listen, while you're over here making sure your fantasy team is dialed in, don't let your personal grooming become the guy that gets left on the bench. And let's be honest, fellas, nobody wants to fumble their grooming routine. That's where Manscaped's Performance Package 5.0 comes in, acting as your all-in-one grooming playbook. From keeping things sharp below the waist with the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra, to taking care of those rogue nose and ear hairs with the Weed Whacker 2.0. Join the over 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and get ready for kickoff by heading over to manscaped.com. Use the code KCSports for 20% off plus free shipping. Trust me, you'll be drafting the real MVP of grooming this season. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code KCSports at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with code KCSports at manscaped.com. Stay on top of your grooming game and be ready for anything the season throws your way.
5 things to watch here on KC Sports Network, presented by Batchelder Family Farms. Having an absolutely great time here talking about Chiefs, Falcons, and you're getting to hear from a variety of different voices. And now it's time to hear from Benny Heisler for Benny's Picks.
Ken, my guy, appreciate it. Good to be back for a new edition of 5 Things as we're going through some of our favorite plays over on Underdog this week. It's Sunday Night Battle. Got a little Chiefs, little Falcons. It's Kirk Cousins and Patrick Mahomes in primetime. I don't know why I led with Kirk Cousins. I think it's because there's always been that narrative around him in primetime. Maybe that's part of it, but I mean, some of those numbers from Mahomes, well, we'll get to them. A couple here in this segment that I think Chiefs fans are certainly going to enjoy. But great opportunities for a little higher, lower plays over on Underdog. If you haven't had an opportunity to check it out, please go ahead and do so. The promo code KCSN, if you sign up, you get to claim a free pick, which this week for new customers, how about Patrick Mahomes higher than 0.5 passing yards against the Falcons? Have a slight feeling he's probably going to get there. Also, if you use promo code KCSN maybe in week 1 or week 2 or even earlier, guess what? All customers get a gimme pick of CeeDee Lamb higher than 0.5 total yards versus the Ravens. Opportunity for the Cowboys to try to rectify whatever the hell happened back in week 2 after that thrashing by the Saints. So whether you're going for Patrick Mahomes to throw for more than 1 yard or CeeDee Lamb to throw for, to receive higher than 0.5 total yards, you can do so by using promo code KCSN over at Underdog. So let's get into our 3 plays for Pick'em for higher and lower for the Chiefs and the Falcons. And we're going to start with another Patrick Mahomes pick, and that is higher than 4 rushing attempts at Atlanta. I mentioned I was going to share a Mahomes stat with you that I think you guys will like. It's from my guy, Evan Abrams, over at the Action Network. Patrick Mahomes, 6-0 straight up on the road after throwing for fewer than 200 passing yards. And the Chiefs in those games have won by just under 16 points per game. The exact number, 15.8. So hopefully you got a chance to see what that could mean. But I think what we need to entail from this particular stat with Mahomes is you're going with Carson Steele. You're going with Samaje Perine. There is a lack of available running backs right now for Kansas City. There's still some inconsistencies on the offensive line. We saw that in the last few weeks. Atlanta has a good ability to generate a pass rush. We've seen that from Grady Jarrett, Matthew Judon. Mahomes, when he can take off, will get opportunities. You saw the 29 yards from Mahomes on the ground last week against Cincinnati. I think this is going to be one of those plays from a rushing attempts perspective. Maybe that's 5, maybe 6. It's not going to be 8 or 9. I'd be very surprised by that. But I do expect him to go higher than 4, knowing that there's going to be just a lack of opportunities, I think, in the running game. Yeah, there's Carson and Samaje, and those guys are there. But Mahomes has shown a tendency to run when he needs to extend drives and plays. And I wouldn't be surprised if he does that again in prime time on Sunday. I talked about Samaje Perine briefly. I'm going to bring him back up again because I like him to be higher than 16.5 receiving yards on Sunday night. Another great stat. This is from Joey Wright over at the Football Guys. Over the past 4 seasons, when Samaje Perine received double-digit touches, he has been one of the most effective NFL backs in the league. That's pretty substantial because I think a lot of us are going into this game going, man, what are the Chiefs going to do at running back? Is it going to be the Carson Steele show? Maybe to a certain extent on the ground it'll be, but in the receiving game for running backs, Perine is going to get opportunities. There's a couple of reasons why. He was the number 1 running back in the NFL last year in yards per route run. And he also was a very highly graded running back by Pro Football Focus in pass protection. So in those times, think about it on third down, more opportunities, maybe in the 2-minute drill. Perine's going to be on the field, and he's going to be able to make the most of those pass-catching opportunities. So 16.5 receiving yards does not feel like a hard number for him to climb when he gets the opportunity to be on the field. So give me the higher number, Samaje Perine, 16.5 receiving yards. I think this is a situation and a matchup that will speak well for him and set him up for. I do have a play and a pick on the Atlanta side. They've got so many weapons, right? You know, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, if you want to consider Kirk Cousins to be a weapon in and of himself, I suppose you can go ahead and talk about Bijan Robinson. How about Ray McLeod III? Higher than 31.5 receiving yards on the night. Again, if I hadn't mentioned his name, if I would have asked you, hey, who do you think is leading the Falcons in targets this year? Amongst all those different guys that I mentioned, I forgot to mention Darnell Mooney, who's leading the team right now in receiving yards. But Raymond McLeod leading the team in targets with 12. Talking about an average of 6 through the first 2 games of the year. He's also second on the Falcons right now in receiving yards. And the number over at Underdog is only 31.5. I think the other reason I think McLeod makes a lot of sense is if you look at how Spagnuolo's defense evolved, especially what we saw from them last week, they made a concerted effort to take Jamar Chase out of the game plan. And so maybe there's a situation where you see less of Drake London. Maybe you see a little bit more shadow matchups from Spagnuolo's defense on him. I think with McLeod, especially playing almost all of the snaps last week out of the slot, we saw Kyle Pitts' numbers go down a little bit as well. He's getting opportunities, you guys. He's on the field and they're throwing to him and he's being targeted. 31.5, especially with a guy with his speed in the middle of the field. I like that number quite a bit. And they're going to keep testing him until he lets him down or, punches somebody else in front of a ref. Did that with CJ Gardner-Johnson. But he's still going to play. He hasn't been suspended as of yet. So Ray McLeod higher than 31.5 receiving yards. So if you're curious whether you want to play all 3 of these over at Underdog or fade them all or do some sort of combination, make sure you guys use that promo code KCSN. Don't forget, new customers can have that free pick with Patrick Mahomes higher than 0.5 passing yards versus the Falcons, or CeeDee Lamb higher than 0.5 total yards versus the Ravens. Promo code KCSN. Should also mention that when you go ahead and make a deposit, there is an offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Get in on it. Have some fun. It's a great way to stay involved in the game over at Underdog. And Kent, I will send things back to you, my friend.
Thank you to Benny Heisler, our guy. Now it's time to get weird. Only weird games. What's your thing to watch? Let's go.
Joshua Briscoe and Seth Kaiser, 2/3 of Only Weird Games with you here to give you a few more of your 5 things. We're going to boil it down to one, Seth. One that has a lot of pieces moving within it, but that obviously is deeply important to this Chiefs offense. It's the pass catchers. Hollywood Brown not expected to be back in the regular season at this point. Rashee Rice, clearly this team's #1 wide receiver. Where's Travis Kelce? Where is Xavier Worthy? And back to Rice, I know you have a few thoughts about where the Chiefs are kind of putting him in their hierarchy right now. Where does Rice stand, and what are you expecting against the Falcons?
I mean, he's very clearly the wide receiver 1, just as clearly as he was to close out last year. I don't think that was their initial plan. based on everything they said about Hollywood Brown. I think Rice still probably would have gotten more targets, but I think the offense was going to be kind of like a 1A, 1B situation with him and Brown. And now they're pivoting. Now they've had some time to pivot, but I don't know if they'd really started this huge pivot and altering the entire offense, because they initially thought he was going to be back in 4 to 6 weeks. Like, they were talking about maybe week 2, right? He didn't heal properly, so it just didn't go the way they were hoping. That would have given them a little more runway, or a lot more runway, for Xavier Worthy. So I think with Rice, he's shown an increased skill set a little bit this year. His releases at the line of scrimmage look better. They're faster. They're more comfortable. And that's one of the things he had to do to become a guy who could beat man coverage, because he's got great acceleration, not great long speed. His quickness is only okay. But if you can get really good releases with his level of physicality and his ability to accelerate that first 10 yards, we see it on his yak all the time. But he actually utilized that, on a downfield pass after getting a great release against the Bengals. Him putting even that on tape, he actually had another one on that the pick to Xavier Worthy, where they were running goes on both sides of the field because it was a single high look. Rice separated there too. Here's where it's going to be interesting for him. If defensive coordinators are seeing that on film, that changes the way corners have to cover you. And if he can show that just a few more times, then they start hesitating, start doing a little more off, which means, oh, hey, look, those really quick and easy slants that they have feasted on in the past, those become available too. He is very close to showing a varied enough skill set, in addition to all the things he already does well, to maybe being talked about as a legitimate wide receiver 1. I don't think that was the plan heading into this season. I think you're going to see more and more of a pivot of the offense really running truly through him, as well as Travis Kelce, who 2 weeks in, he's had multiple plays kind of taken away from him, penalties or otherwise. So I'm not too stressed about him right now. And if they can do that, then you can continue to bring Worthy along faster than you'd planned, but still a little bit slower.
And with Worthy at this point, the scary thing about this group, I'm not soothsaying, but it's the thing that does have to give you some pause, is that right now this is the same personnel with Xavier Worthy in the space of Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and to a lesser extent, Juju Smith-Schuster instead of Kadarius Toney, right? But those guys both getting much smaller workloads. I was going to follow up on, well, what does an offense running through Rashee Rice look like if he's at these phases? You've kind of already opened that can up to say, well, we saw in week 1 what a version of a Rashee Rice-based offense can look like. You see it get a little more vertical in week 2, and then the building blocks are there for a more well-rounded receiver and a more well-rounded offense. The thing that I'm going to keep wondering about until we see it, and it's very, very early, so I don't think I'm being unrealistic in my expectations, but I do want to know when we're going to see Xavier Worthy get a wide receiver workload. He got a lot of snaps. I think I haven't double-checked this, but I'd be stunned if it wasn't true that he's gotten a larger snap count than Rashee Rice got in his first 2 weeks. Worthy was a higher round draft pick and all of that. But he gets 2 touches that pop off the screen in week 1, and then in week 2, he's kind of another guy that's out there in the mix. Justin Watson's the guy out there in the mix. I want to see what an Xavier Worthy game plan looks like. I don't know if Atlanta is the time to try to pull that off. They do have quite a bit of secondary talent. What is your timeline right now, noting where Rice is at, noting that neither of us are really worried about Travis Kelce at this point? His snap count has been extraordinarily high to this point, by the way, so it's not like he's not on the field. He just hasn't gotten the ball, and he's had some plays taken back, like you mentioned. What's your timeline for Worthy, noting everything that we've laid out from the top 2 options?
Probably after the bye week is when you'll see that more often. And that's still an expedited process.
Yeah.
He's seen way more snaps than Andy traditionally gives rookies. And his route tree has actually been fairly varied. He's just not the primary on a lot of routes that he's running. And so I wouldn't expect them to change that up this early in the season. I think they're continually getting him used to sight adjustments, the physicality across the field in the NFL while you're running your route, not just at the catch point, right? But linebackers tried to hit you. He got laid out in week 1 by Roquan Smith, like the only good play Roquan Smith made in that game, but whatever. And so I expect to see them do that kind of thing and continually ramp it up. They are already much more in an expedited process with him than they were with even Rice last year. With Rice, it was kind of out of necessity. You saw they kind of had this limited plan for him in the first half of the season, And then they started just spamming because they were like, we got to run our offense through him because no one else can do it. With Worthy, the sooner the better, I say. I would love to see them. And we saw Mahomes kind of force him the ball a little bit against a single high look. I love the idea. I want them to keep doing it. Mahomes just got to throw a better ball there because we are a better ball from Patrick Mahomes there from having Worthy be like the entire focus of the conversation this week.
I will fact check myself and say that yes, Xavier Worthy has obliterated what Rashee Rice did the first 2 weeks of last season. For comparison's sake, on the expedited process, Rice in week 1 and 2 last year in his rookie campaign took 20 and 12 snaps, according to Pro Football Reference, while Xavier Worthy's been at 34 and 44 against Cincinnati. They're not afraid to put him on the field. It just hasn't gotten there yet. But to your point, Seth, maybe a little more air under a football would be changing the tone there as well. So there you go. We talked about a whole lot more things relating to Chiefs Falcons over in Only Weird Games, and we'll be back on Only Weird Games to talk to you on Tuesday.
Thank you to the fellas at Only Weird Games. That is 5 things to watch for Chiefs Falcons here on KC Sports Network, presented by Batchelder Family Farms. Thank you to everyone that participated on the show. Thank you to Batchelder Family Farms. They're incredible. Their meat's incredible. Everything that they have out there is absolutely delicious. And if you haven't had a chance to try any of that, make sure you take advantage of that. Link is in the description of the show. Thank you all so much for listening, watching, supporting KC Sports Network. We appreciate you. We love you. We'll talk to you after a Chiefs win.